Here's the block that we're about to make. Stick with me and we'll get to the end. Easier than it looks. Hi guys, welcome back. We're on our third block, if you can believe that. We are going to make our heart block today. For those of you who are wondering where it is on the quilt so that your placement is not disrupted, let's us take a look, okay? Let me get out the quilt. So your heart block, when we have completed it, is going to be up here in this corner. Remember, the block we did last month is here, and the one that we did the month before is here. So we're kind of spread out. Please remember that unless you're following a particular color theme, which you'll be looking at your particular quilt and picking colors accordingly, if you're just doing a scrappy or using the random fabrics like I did my 14 and mixing them up, your blocks can change from place to place. The 9 inches can move, the 6 inches can move. They don't all have to go where it says they go. It's your quilt. Do what you want it to do. So today we're going to make the heart. We're going to make this beautiful little heart. All right, and our block is supposed to end up 6 inches finished, which means ours will measure 6.5 for seam allowance. And we're going to, I'm not showing you how to cut. That's in the previous one. I'm not going to show you how to do cross cuts because that's in the previous one. But you should know all of these tips and tricks by now. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make quarter square triangles, half square triangles, and I call it a snowball. We're going to take the corners off of a rectangle and give it kind of a rounded effect. All right? And then we're going to put it all together and it's going to look like a heart. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take our 2 largest triangles, put them right sides together, and pin them. Remember, cut to my instructions. It gives you room to trim them when you're done. This way you don't have to be particular. You don't have to be fussy. You have a little leeway there, okay? Okay. Just like that. Now, because of how I am, I'm going to pin all of my things because that's just how I work. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew them all. And then we're going to press them all. It's more efficient. It's more fun for me than up and down and up and down. So right now I am doing my half square triangles. Okay. Like this. All right. Next, we need our quarter square triangles. What you need to remember about quarter square triangles is you have a big end, right? We have a longer side than the other 2. And this happens because we take a square and we cut it on the diagonal twice. So when you're putting these together, remember that these have to go, put your long ends together and then flip it over. And we're going to sew one of these short ends. All right? So I'm going to pin this one. Now, if you look at the book, you'll see that one looks different than the others. There's 2 that are the same and 1 that's different. They're actually all the same. One's just been rotated 45 degrees. So just go ahead and pin all of them exactly the same way. So watch one more time how this goes together. Right side up and right side up. See this? You see this right here? Right side up and right side up. Flip it over. And you're going to sew the short side. All right? Now, the one important thing about this is that you sew them the same. All of them should be sewn exactly the same so that you don't end up one twisted. I know that sounds funny, but if you sewed these on the right and some more on the left, they wouldn't go together properly. So here we go. We want them all to be identical. We're going to do right side up, put them beside each other, flip it over, and I am sewing the right side. If you were in class with me right now, I would say to you, do you know why I'm sewing the right side? And somebody would say, because you're right-handed? No. The reason I'm sewing the right side is because it has a wide top. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to have this beautiful 90-degree angle in which to start sewing. If I sewed the left side, I would have to start with this skinny point. And as you all know, those tend to get chewed up in your sewing machine. There is nothing wrong with your sewing machine. What do we expect to happen when we have a little piece of fabric and a needle that jabs it down in there? It's inevitable. Don't blame it on your machine. Trust me on this. So I prefer the right side. That way I have a nice big fabric surface to work with when I'm sewing. All right? Yes, there are reasons for all these weird little things that we do. They are what work for, it's what works for me. It may not work for you or somebody else, and that's fine, but give it a try, because if you've been having your corners eaten, this could be the solution, all right? Okay. All right, now it's time to pin our snowball portion. I call this a snowball portion because if we had a square and we put these other squares on all four corners, it makes it look like a snowball. We're only doing a portion of that today, but we still need to, we're still doing the exact same method, okay? So the first thing you need to do is you need to draw on your little squares. We need to draw a line. We need to draw a line diagonally at a 45-degree angle on all four of these little lines.
Soda, it's right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see him.
All right, so we have to draw our diagonal lines. Remember, we're using our ruler. We can use our 45-degree diagonal. This has been outlined in your previous videos. If you've forgotten, please go back and review it. I feel as though people remember things more if they have to recall the information than if I just keep feeding it to you. So today I'm using an air erase, no, a water-soluble pen. Why, you ask, when I love chalk so much? It was handy. Ellie's using the chalk somewhere. I couldn't find it. All right. Now, we've cut those, all right? I'm going to do this as if you were looking at it. So you're going to lay these down like this. You're going to put them on, and we're going to sew from the center out. Now, because these don't overlap, this is very much like flying geese, but because these don't overlap, we can go ahead and put them both on at the same time. Do you see that? No overlap in there. We have our large half square triangles, which are going to become the base of our heart. We have got our quarter square triangles that we're creating that are going to become the lattice of the top of our heart. And we have our snowball rectangles, which are going to be the middle portion of our heart. I'm headed off to this sewing machine, and I'm going to sew on all the blue lines and 1/4 inches across all my pins. Come on, let's go. All right, well, I already have my 1/4 inch foot on here today. So I'm going to start with doing my 1/4 inch seams. Needle down, ladies. Makes it so much easier to get started if you can abut that fabric. I know. I'm a broken record sometimes. We're gonna just sew all these 1/4 inches. I know. I'm sewing over my pins and you heard a cha-chunk. Guess what? My machine didn't break. It's all good. Okay, 1/4 squares are done. Now it's time to do the 1/2 square triangles. You should have 2 of them. We're going to sew along the long edge that we pinned. Keep in mind, I gave you a little extra room. All right. You haven't seen me use this yet. This is your chance. I love this little cutter. It's called the Cutting Gizmo. If you got a handy husband, have him fashion you up a razor blade on top of a piece of wood. Does the same thing. If you don't, I know where you can get one of these. All right. Now I need to take off my 1/4 inch foot and put on my open-toed foot. We want to use an open-toed foot when we do, when we're following lines, so we have better visibility. So be sure to put on your open-toed foot. Now, I know I drew lines on mine and I talk to you guys every month about how I have this fancy schmancy laser light and don't really need to do that. But I know not everybody does, and that's fine. Your machines work great, and that's perfect. That's what we want. So needle down, and we're gonna follow our line. Yes, I know. I even chain piece these. I can't let that efficiency side of me go. And I always start at the center and work out. Don't start at the point. You'll be cussing at me and it won't be my fault. All right, now we have to go back to our cutting. We're going to, again, I got to take my pins out, but remember, we're going to take this back and only cut out this middle piece. I'm going to leave my base in place, just like I've shown you on previous blocks. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, got our pins out. Time to trim this back. Flip them with the wrong side up, right, of our base. We're gonna peel back that base. I'm going over this again just because this, for some reason, this kind of confuses people. But we're gonna peel back this base, put our 1/4 inch right on there, and trim out the excess. Some people will ask me, well, since it's so tiny, do I have to do this? No, you don't have to do anything. However, I suggest it because it keeps the bulk out of the seam. Keeps your seam down in the corners when you're trying to create intersections. So yes, I do recommend that you do it, okay? We'll do our other one. And then to the ironing board so we can iron all this out and put it together. This is where we need Giada music. All right, so we're gonna go iron. We are gonna iron these up just like we always have, okay? All of our half square triangles, we're going to press to the dark side. We need them to nestle together. So every single one of these, you're gonna press dark side up and then open it. So they all press to the dark side. Headed to my iron. See ya. Back soon. Okay. Ironing time. I got it. Gotta love ironing time. Let's open these up. I know. Who's ever heard of a brown heart? It's not a crusty heart. Just my colors. All right, pressed open, all nice and beautiful. Now remember, to the dark side. I know y'all just love listening to me, but this is where you can fast forward if you want. Notice how I'm pressing them both to the dark side. Check it out. When I flip them, they nestle together. See that? Look at that. So that'll be coming in handy here momentarily. Now, I'm going to trim my half square triangles when I trim my other squares. I'm not going to stop right now and do one and come back and do the other. Again, like to do everything in groupings. So, to get caught up, what we'll do is we're going to flip this over and nestle it. Right? We want those to abut nice and tight. You see that? See how nice and tight those fit together? That's what we're looking for. And we're going to take these over to the sewing machine and pop a couple pins in and sew them up. Once we sew them up, we're going to press our seams open and then trim everything. All right? See you in a sec. Well, because I love my little machine, notice I put my 1/4-inch foot back on again, ladies. I am going to only pin my intersection. I know I have taught you time and time again to pin everything, but this big table, everything just seems to glide along so smoothly that I'm just going to hold my point and sew right off. Nestle them up real nice and tight. I'm putting my pin in the seam that's going against the feed dogs, so it's the top one right here. I know, put it through your hair. I know you guys think that's weird, but look, it works. All right, we're gonna start at this point. Oh, so pretty. Line up this one. Don't stress, Becky. Don't you stress. Your blocks are big enough, you can trim them down. All right. There's our last one. Once we do this one, we're going to press our seams open and trim up our blocks. Where'd my cutter go? Alright, well, must have walked away with it. Okay, let's go press these seams open and meet back at the cutting mat, okay? Alright, let's press these seams open. There's something I want to show you when I get my seam pressed open. Look at this. Do you see when you nestle them how beautiful that intersection is? Look at those points, ladies. Telling you, these are the things that make my heart happy. It's the little things in life. Now, if they didn't line up, would I take it out? Probably not. It's one point in a whole quilt. If somebody can find it, they're looking too close. So, relax. Sewing's supposed to be exciting and fun. Okay. We are going to trim. These are called quarter square blocks because every quarter is different. These are called half squares. Our half squares have to be trimmed to 3.5. Okay, and what I've got you so far is 3 5/8. What we want to make sure of is that when we're lining this up to cut it at 3.5 inches, that we have extra left over on the opposite side so we can square it nicely too. So I've got my overlap on this side. Yes, using my rotating mat. However, all mats rotate. Okay. Turn it around. This time I'm going to put it right on the 3.5. I'm using my 45-degree angle right there. Okay. Ta-da! Beautiful, beautiful. Let's do the next one. Need it just over a half. Okay. Flip it around. Whoops. Don't cut it wrong. You'll have to go back and redo it all. Okay. And these, my dears, are going to be cut at 2.5. So again, we want them just slightly over 2.5. Some of you will have a 2.5-inch square. Hey, if that works for you, more power to you. So nice to have a little extra. Not be restricted by a wonky block. And our last one. Then we'll get out the board and we'll start assembling it. I just thought of a question you're going to ask me. How do I know on those quarter squares where center is? Well, there's a line that goes through it at 1 1/4. Right here. Right here is 1 1/4, and that line should bisect your point. I hope you understand that and you see that. It should be 1 1/4 from the top and 1 1/4 from the bottom when you square it up. Please watch this whole video before you start. Double checking my 1 1/4. Looks good, looks good. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, here we go. Now it's time to assemble our block. We have all the pieces. We are going to put the base of our heart. Gotta love a family affair. Got our dog here too, you know. Then we've got to put on our lattice work. Like this. Made one too many. And then we put the top of our heart on, just like this. Look how cute that's going to be. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these 3 together. Flip it over and pin it. I'm going to sew these 2 together. Flip it over and pin it. And these 2 together. Flip it over and pin it. Off to the sewing machine. Remember, when you're sewing this portion, as I've said before, don't worry about the squareness of this side. We are sewing this side together. We aren't sewing these together. Don't pay attention to it. All right, now we have our bottom done, need to press it. We have our top done, need to press it. And we have 1 of 3 of these of our lattice put on. So we need to add our last piece of lattice, making sure that it's the same direction as the first one. So we're going to turn that over. All right, look at how cute. They're so tiny. Let's go press them open. All right, got all our lumpy bumpy bits. Time to make them flat. Nothing wrong with giving it a little extra best press right now. Get that seam, and we're pressing all of these seams open. Pressing, don't iron. Oh yeah. Should have gotten out my pressing mat. That would have helped too. If you have your wool pressing mat, remember those are a godsend. They make these thick seams nice and flat. I know they look a little wonky. That's because they have their seam allowance in them yet. Once we sew it all together, it'll be just fine. Okay. Oh, look at that. Oh, if it fit any better, you'd have thought I'd done it myself. All right. Here we go. Let's sew these three together. Then we're going to press all our seams open again, and new block. Here we are, pinning them together. Make sure you get the bottom one too. That took me 3 tries. Remember, if it doesn't quite fit, don't stress. Do you see how I got this little bit of bump right here? We're just gonna give it a little tug. Ooch and scooch. Get your ooch and scooch on. Pop in an extra pin or two. One of the greatest things about learning to sew and taking classes is learning that there's a solution to every problem. Things don't have to be perfect. You can fix them. There is a solution to every problem. All right, all done sewing our seam. We're gonna take out these last pins. Let's go press open our seam and look at our beautiful, beautiful heart. All right, let's press both these seams open and check out our beautiful block. Get out your wool pressing mat to really sink those seams. But here we are, ladies. Look at our gorgeous, gorgeous block. Happy sewing! We'll see you next month.